Welcome back. Now, that's a lot of testimony. Here to help me break it down is psychologist, and lawyer Susan J. Lewis. Susan, how you doing today?
Pretty good, thank you.
Great. Now, Susan, we're both lawyers, but you've got a leg up on me in terms of the psychology part. Give me a bit of a breakdown as to what we are to make of this witness, the attacks that the defense attorney makes, especially with you're not even board certified, and the test and lack of tests that were done here.
Well, California uses what's called the McNaughton test for insanity. It is a legal defense. It has nothing to do with psychology. What I understood from the expert was that he stated that he believed the defendant was psychotic. When someone is psychotic, the symptoms don't just disappear during an interview. They are still present. He said that he doesn't believe that the defendant is suffering from delusional disorder, although it looked from some of the data that that's what they were thinking about. If that was the case, I would be curious as to why they didn't use the not guilty by reason of insanity defense. That would be one piece of it. The other piece of it is when you do a forensic examination, it's not just the individual that you interview. You also interview family members, all sorts of collateral contacts that can either support or not support what the defendant is talking about. And I didn't hear that the forensic psychologist did that. Certification for psychologists and forensic psychology, many people have it. I'm not sure that it demonstrates a higher level of knowledge. Some people have done postdoctoral training programs. So as a whole, I didn't hear anyone really bringing up mental illness as an issue in this trial.
Yeah, it was interesting. We actually had not interesting, it was amazing. We had the defense attorney just moments before you got on kind of alluding to that he didn't really use it that much in this trial. We know that there's another trial coming up where Markeith Loyd is accused of shooting and killing an officer who had tried to arrest him that brought him to this trial. This was the rebuttal witness for the prosecution who I think left, to your point, Susan, left a lot of holes there. And I think we saw the defense jump in on it as to you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do that. Do you feel that not doing these things that you're listing either doesn't paint the full picture or maybe even to the extreme doesn't paint a picture at all or paint a picture worth looking at?
Well, the curious piece to me is if they're thinking about using mental illness as a defense, I'd be interested in knowing how it wasn't used in a defense in the first trial, but all of a sudden he caught it and it may be used as a defense in the second trial. It's not just whether or not he was experiencing psychotic symptoms or whether or not he was experiencing delusional disorder. It has to do with both the nature of the crime and it has to do with whether someone understands at the time of the crime that it was morally wrong. Because not guilty by reason of insanity is a legal defense.
So let's kind of explore that because that may be what we see in the upcoming case. So it wasn't used in this case. And again, this witness was the prosecution's rebuttal witness who I think was I don't want to say weak, but let's say not as strong as maybe the defense's psychologist who came on and said that there were delusions of grandeur. There was mental health issues. There were reasons that I think they also said he had PTSD. The little that I know of PTSD and how it works, I thought that Markeith Loyd's situation sounded more like complex PTSD rather than PTSD just because of the continual history of traumatic experience that they were alluding to. I'll allow you to speak more to PTSD and complex PTSD and whether or not that's here, but for at least the sentencing part of saying, hey, don't put a needle in his arm, give him life or try to reduce it less. When it comes to mental health, do you find that these witnesses, that these testimonies are lending themselves to a broad picture of the person, or do you think it can be sometimes narrow, as you might have seen in this witness?
In the first interview by the defense attorney, Is that what you're speaking about?
So this witness kind of gave us like a bit of a narrow glimpse as to the mental health of Markeith Loyd. I'm getting from you, and I think a lot of our viewers, that we would have hoped for a much broader perspective. Like, why not do the test? Why not do all the questioning? Like the stuff that you're saying. It seems like he had a very narrow view of Markeith Loyd, which doesn't seem right.
Well, I understood that there was a neuropsychologist as well.
Yes.
Who did do some testing. I think the issue is not the mental illness that he may be experiencing, whether it's PTSD, whether it's complex PTSD, whether it's delusional disorder, whether it's some psychotic disorder. What we're really looking at is the nature of his crime and whether or not what he did was morally wrong for him. Does he understand that?
Yep. All right. So, Susan, we're going to continue more with this case. We're going to take a quick break and come back with more. What was really going on in Markeith Loyd's mind during the commission of this crime? We'll talk more after this break.